Hello YouTubers out there, this is the Boob Wasteland Show with your host Jerry Saravia. And in this show, which I haven't done an episode in quite a few months, I've been reviewing mostly movies and other things, but on my other show, Jerry at the Movies, which you can also check out, I do movie reviews. And this show, I review TV shows, any TV series, anything new for the most part, anything I manage to catch if I have the time. I like to use this format, this show, to discuss that stuff. Anything on television, TV, movies, reality shows, whatever. So this show that I'm going to discuss tonight is something that, pardon me, kind of interested me because I didn't know too much about this man before. His name is Peter Popoff, who began a television ministry as a minister back in the 70s with his wife Liz-Popoff. And by the early 1980s, Peter Popoff had a weekly television program that was broadcast nationally. And it had been, he has been exposed as a fraud by a magician and skeptic, James-Randi. And basically this guy, Peter Popoff, claims to be a faith healer. So he'll have people in his audience, and again, this was a televised show, and he will claim to know what their illness is, their name, their address, etc. And this information was not something that he was really getting from God, or that's what he claimed. God was telling him all this information in some cases, and I think even still today, this man is still in operation. He would slap, someone, and whoever was disabled or couldn't walk or whatever, and then they could start walking, and they could throw away their crutches and get up their wheelchair, and it was a miracle, and it's because of God. Anyway, he was exposed as a fraud, because what was happening was that through a high-tech computerized scanner, during a Popoff appearance in San Francisco, this is again back in 1986, James-Randi was able to determine that there was a radio frequency where Elizabeth Popoff, Peter's wife, was sending him information, crucial information about certain people in the audience. So he would say a name and say, I know there is so-and-so in this audience, and of course he would know their illness and their address, and God is telling me this information. So that was exposed as a fraud. And this man was making, I believe, about $4.3 million a year, if not more than that. He was getting a lot of money. In fact, one of the things he had done, which I thought was kind of funny, but you can't make this sort of stuff up, is that in 1985, he began to campaign for money to help smuggle Bibles into at that time, the Soviet Union. And he claimed the Bibles would be tied to helium-filled balloons and sent into the Iron Curtain, and this plan was considered impractical, to say the least. And to account for the money being spent, Popoff staged a burglary at his own headquarters, and then he would tearfully, on television, as some ministers had done during the 80s, if not even today, beg for money to help repair the damage. Anyway, James-Randi exposed them in 1986. And Randy is, of course, the one that exposed that magician, Uri Geller, who claimed that Uri Geller was lying, that he couldn't use psychic phenomenon to bend a spoon or a fork, which he had done on television, Barbara Walters' old show from the 1970s, and was proven to be a fraud on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Not to say that Uri Geller was not an accomplished magician, but through magic, you can make things, you can do certain things, but not through psychic phenomenon. Anyway, so Peter Popoff basically went bankrupt back in the 80s, and had disappeared, and then suddenly came back, interestingly enough, and bought a home in LA for about $4.5 million, and is now on a show, the Word Network, which is a Christian network, the Word Network. And Peter Popoff is on there on Thursday afternoon, sometimes after hours, and I happen to catch him on after hours by accident. I was kind of curious, like, who's Peter Popoff, and You know, again, I don't. During the '80s, I guess for me it was Jimmy Swaggart and some other people that I occasionally would tune into or hear about. But Peter Popoff was not a name I was really that familiar with. Anyway, on this show, Peter Popoff's new show, which works as kind of a infomercial slash ministry type of propaganda, if you like. He claims that he can give money that it will make God give you 10 times the money back for money that you're owed. In other words, he helps to resolve debt cancellation. So there are these people that come on the screen, a lot of black folk, and from, I don't know where this is being done, I think in LA. And these poor black folk, which is how they're depicted, they give their testimonials. And so there's Peter Popoff, and he's listening to them and giving them a mic. And they're saying, well, one day I watched your show, and then the next day I sent you a letter. And then before you know it, people started throwing money in my purse. And I had a debt that was $320,000, and the bank took care of it, and mortgage, no problem, and blah, blah, blah. So what was interesting about the testimonials, I think, what I took away from that, is the fact that, yes, maybe these people did get that money, but maybe Peter Popoff sent them a check. Because if they got in touch with Peter Popoff and they said, you, free of charge, I'll send you miracle water, and what else, a pair of cloth, an anointing oil, and you sprinkle it on yourself or over your check made out to Peter Popoff before sending it off, and you will get your money. Not from me, of course, but from whoever it is, the institution that owes you money, and of course they get their money miraculously, just like that. So it's a scam to some degree, there's no question, and wow. I don't even have the words for this man, but he gets away with it. He definitely gets away with it. I don't know exactly how he's doing it, mind you, but he's getting away with it. So yeah, that's the show. And then Peter Popoff and Elizabeth, they sit on these chairs and they talk to the camera and they say, yes, we got this letter, and they read these letters and people got their money back. It's all about money. God will help resolve your debt. Will cancel your debt. Whatever is your debt will be canceled. That seems to be his new thing. Now, according to Wikipedia, and I know some of you don't rely on Wikipedia for information, but if it's a legitimate source, and sometimes it is, it's a great tool a great resource for information. And Peter Popoff's People United for Christ business has an F rating with the Better Business Bureau. Now, the Better Business Bureau claimed in their review of the organization that since making his comeback to television, Popoff appears to have resumed his faith-healing sessions in a manner identical to his method prior to his exposure as a fraud. And if you feel you've been victimized by this organization, please report your experience to the California Attorney General's Office of the U.S. Postal Service. Now, what's fascinating about the show is that my wife pointed this out to me, and I didn't quite notice it immediately. They repeat one shot over and over again, which is, the show itself is about half an hour. And again, it's a mixture of infomercial. It's fascinating, but it's a scam. I mean, if anyone doesn't think it's a scam, I don't know what to tell you. But it definitely, it has the look and feel of a scam, and this guy's a con artist. Nevertheless, they repeat one shot where the camera tilts up, and you see these all these chandeliers, and then the camera tilts down to reveal him in the distance talking, and they repeat that shot over and over again, and so it gives you this impression of a number of people seated there, and you can't quite make out his face, but in the background there are these flower or plants in the back on these in these pots, and then sort of a black cloth of a background. So what's fascinating about that, the reason I bring it up, is that when they cut to a close-up of him talking on the stage, you don't see anyone else in the audience. You know how if you watch a concert film, sometimes you see silhouettes of people. depending on how it's shot. So you get the impression that there is an audience, and it's not somebody who's isolated on stage. Well, this looks like he's isolated on stage. And then, when they have these testimonials of people lining up, usually see about 5, 6, 10 people lined up to talk to his son. His son is also part of this scam. And they're telling their story about how they watched his show and they got this money suddenly and blah, blah, blah. And if you look in the background, it seems like there isn't that much distance from the exit doors or entrance doors and where he's standing on the stage. But in those other shots, it seems so much more, vast, the room. So perhaps that's not even him, because you can't even make out his presence in those shots. You can't tell. It could be any white guy who's a minister. So it's very interesting. The show's a fraud. I mean, listen, I can't. I recommend watching it for purely to be fascinated by it and look at it almost as a car wreck, because it's a ridiculous show. But people believe in this stuff. They order this mineral water, or miracle water rather, it's a scam. I'm just surprised that this man is still making his business this way, but that's the way it is. That's the country we live in. Some people will buy into anything, and I guess they'll buy into this guy. So he gets an F from me for being a scam, but an A for effort in terms of making people believe in all this. Despite allegations and being exposed as fraud, I guess people just don't care. They want to believe, they want to believe. And they're getting this money. So who knows how he's doing this. I don't know. But anyway, that's all I got to say about Peter Popoff. And this is the Boob Wasteland Show with your host, Jerry Sarabia, signing off.